You're watching All To Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.
Another shocker, JC, here, haven't we, mate? All set to be back in the studio. I baked you some lovely mince pies. I was ready to see you. And what's happened, fella?
Oh, mate, had a mare. Got pinged. Had to sort of self-isolate because I've come in contact with someone, but all's well. I got a clean bill of health, so haven't got the big one. But, yeah, I'm just gutted. I'm missing the mince pies, mate. You know what I mean? Here we are.
Mate, I'm going to put them in the freezer, and when I see you in the new year, I'm bringing them there. It'll be late, but you'll love them.
Quality.
We've got a cracking show. We've got one of the dons from the all-time big man, little man combo in Premier League history. We've got Mr. Kevin Phillips. We're going to be talking to him about all the best strikers in the league at the moment. You know, someone's chatting to him about his time at Leicester, and also we're going to be talking about Big Sam being back in the Premier League. But firstly, Joe, I want to chat to you about last night's games. Some crackers there. I mean, a massive game. Spurs-Liverpool. You were watching that, right?
Mate, it was intriguing, wasn't it? It was like it was a proper, team on the ball, dominating, moving it from side to side. And Jose tactically just had, they were just so tough and so strong. They still had their chances, Tom. Like, Harry Kane missed a glorious chance. Bergwijn missed a couple of one-on-ones. It was just an intriguing game. I don't think it was one of the classics, but you couldn't keep your eyes off it. You knew there was going to be some drama. And then with a goal last minute, the last thing I'd have expected a Mourinho team to concede was a last-minute corner in that situation. I think Eric Dyer just got the block wrong at the time. He actually had an excellent game, Eric Dyer. I thought he was brilliant.
I thought he was amazing yesterday.
Yeah, he was good, and but he got it wrong. It was a bullet header into the top bins, and it was you've got to give credit to this Liverpool side because they're so resilient. They're playing with a young centre half and a centre midfielder at the back, and they're still sitting top of the pile. They really are a top side.
I mean, a lot of people were writing them off, weren't they? I mean, even we talked on here when they had that shocker of a couple of weeks where everyone seemed to be getting injured. It seemed like they're getting through it. I mean, when you looked at how Mourinho set out, right? It looks like a negative way of playing. You've played in those big games with him as manager. Is it a negative thing? Yeah. How's that roll out?
Do you know what? I was watching them last night, and I don't ever remember us playing too many games where we was like that. It's almost like the players are taking it so literally. I wouldn't say it was negative. I think it's necessary when you play against this Liverpool side who are on it, especially the first 30 minutes they were moving the ball. So what he done, Jose, I thought was very clever last night. And, we don't usually get too tactical on All To Play For, but he seemed to get... He got Kane and Son playing centrally together. And and they played like a two banks of four behind it. But what he did was the two wide men of the four, Lucas Moura and Bergwijn, were really picking up Trent and Robertson. So effectively, at times, it was like a back six, where Liverpool, because they play their fullbacks. And it was so interesting. And Kane and Son were dropping deep. They were dropping on Henderson and Wijnaldum at times when it was interesting to watch him do it. And listen, he nearly did it, Jose. Like Harry Kane, I've never seen him miss a header as glaring as that. He's usually clinical. I mean, it happens. No, he's human. Do you know what I mean? He's going to miss chances, but he nearly did it, Tom. And unbelievable from Jose to nearly pull that off.
But when I was watching it, and maybe I'm wrong, but and like you say, tactically, I can only watch that as a fan. But there's a part of me thinking the way they've been playing Kane and Son up front is like, and Bergwijn as well. I think's been great for it. I thought, go at them a bit here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it felt like he was there, and maybe that's the thing. I mean, Liverpool with Coral, you know how much I love doing these. Still the big favourites with Coral, 13-10 to win the league. Do you think that's going to be the way?
I think Liverpool would do it. I do. My head was turned when Van Dijk got injury, and then when Matip, Gomez, people picking up injuries. I was thinking, maybe it could be someone else's year. But the way them lads have turned it round and dug in, and just ground out results. I just think I can't see anyone getting on top of them because Tottenham were at it last night. Trust me, they was at it. They were doing everything right. They was tactically spot on. Son's goal was unbelievable. The ball from Lo Celso with the outside of the boot was on
He's some
point.
player, that Lo Celso, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jose don't get it wrong a lot, and he was I mean, he had a bit of a slow start, Lo Celso, and Jose was really singing his praises consistently, and he doesn't get it wrong, Tom. And he's like, and I look at him now, and he drives the ball through the lines. I mean, I don't know if he gets on the score sheet enough. I mean, I think that will come. But I just think he's just a footballer, isn't he? He just dominates games. And him and Højbjerg in the centre of the park was excellent as well. Like I found it so intriguing. Like I said, I think the football fan out there might look at that and be a bit frustrated with how he played. But as a football with coaches head and with players head, I was like, wow, that was what he did there was quite interesting. And now he set the team up.
I can't go any further. I mean, that was one big game. The other big game, Palace West Ham. Have you seen Haller's goal yet?
Unreal, big man, mate. He's listen. He's you can't knock Haller. He keeps coming back. He keeps getting chances.
This is my problem because I did knock Haller against Leeds. Right against Leeds, I thought he had a mare. I thought he was. Yeah. I thought the team played well. I felt sorry for him if I'm honest, but he's. I didn't think someone like Haller, who I don't think anyone would doubt he's a very good player. I think in that team and the way that David Moyes plays as West Ham, I think if you're not trying and if you're not running and if you're not giving everything, which we've become accustomed to with Mikel Antonio, I think you sort of stand out. And so I put a thing up against Leeds saying I'll give £5 to charity every time Haller has the ball and the next player to touch it isn't a Leeds player. And it was £25 I ended up giving to charity. I was generally hoping it would spur him on and he'd had an absolute rocket of a game. But that goal, I mean, the thing is he's got those goals in him. I just don't know whether I don't know, he's a funny one. What do you make of him as a player?
Mate, when I watched him for Eintracht Frankfurt and he was when they played a semi-final a couple of years ago, against Chelsea, and I thought, "What, this kid's a handful. He's prime for the Premier League." A funny story actually about that game because I walked to the game. I was staying in Chelsea. I was in a hotel, and I had the ticket for the game. I think I might have been working, and I thought, right, I'll go down to the game. And so as I'm walking down the Fulham Road, just get your nut down. I had the hat on, like what you're wearing. I thought, I don't want to get recognised. I want to get to the game, but they come about 6,000-7,000 mob-handed the Eintracht Frankfurt fans, and they walked from Marble Arch up to Stamford Bridge. Wow! And for some reason, I weren't looking. I was listening to the headphones and I'm in the middle of all these Eintracht Frankfurt hooligans, and we got then surrounded by the police. As they hoard you in, and they're thinking I'm a German hooligan. And they're all singing songs and they were lagging out there. I thought, oh no, please get me to the game here. Get me to the game in one piece. If they recognise I'm an ex-Chelsea player, I could be in trouble here. So I walked with the Frankfurt fans right the way to the game, just trying to hum along to the German songs. Got there in one piece. I thought, thank the Lord I'm here. And anyway, I'm trying to cop the policeman's eye and just say oh mate, I'm not one of these. Let me out. Because we literally got hoarded in like sheep because they must have thought that they was going to cause trouble or whatever it was. Anyway, got to the game and watched him Haller, and I was like, good. That's a Premier League striker. I'd take any team outside the top four. I'd have taken him. And then he come in, and then he had a decent start, and then he's not really kicked on. But you're right. He needs to show a little bit more of that aggression, what he showed when I watched him play in Germany, like that, running and do that. Just do that. And the West Ham fans will love you.
Yeah, man. We have got an absolute corker of a guest today. He's one of my favourite strikers that's played in the Premier League. He's a very, very special guest with over 600 appearances in English football, nearly 300 goals scored, and the last Englishman ever to win the European Golden Boot. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Kevin Phillips.
Unbelievable.
How you doing, Kev?
Yeah, I'm good, guys. I'm very good, thank you.
That's a hell of an intro, isn't it? When I read those stats, that is mental. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always nice to hear. The only thing that wrangles me really is I didn't get in the 100 club with the Premier Leagues. I think I was 6 short of that. But yeah, it's always nice to hear the European Golden Boot winner, which is still stands today.
That's an unbelievable stat. I can't believe, with all the great strikers that we've had in the last 20 years, like Rooney, Harry Kane, Vardy. No one's. What is that? The top scorer in all the top 4 or 5 leagues. That's an unbelievable stat,
but also that's the whole of Europe.
That's unbelievable.
I always think when I remember when you won that, Kev, I always think it's fair enough when you're up against Spain and Italy and all the great players, but also that's the whole of Europe. So even sort of quite 2 bob leagues where you got people who can score 50 to score that amount of goals. No, I'm right. I'm saying that is
in the current climate, big man. You can't say that.
I challenge you to name a couple of them.
Moldova, the Moldova League.
The Moldovan Premier League.
No, but that's an insane thing to think. You must every day think there must be a little time across your mind to think that's a hell of an accolade to have done.
I think so, yeah, of course. And let's not forget, and there's no disrespect to the club I was playing at the time, but it was Sunderland, and it wasn't a Chelsea or an Arsenal or a Liverpool at the time or a Man United. I did it in a side in Sunderland where we finished 7th that season. We had a fantastic season. But, if I'd have done it for a Man United or a Liverpool, perhaps, I maybe get mentioned in a higher accolade. But I actually, for me personally, to still be the only Englishman to have done it when Joe, rightly mentions the likes of the players that we've had. Harry Kane, I'm sure at some point will probably go on and do it. Willie, when you've got Ronaldo and Messi firing in 40-odd goals and Lewandowski out in Germany firing in 40 goals, they might struggle a little bit. But I'm sure one of our young English strikers at some point will go on to get it. But for it to have stood for 20 years, of course, I've been very privileged.
I mean, you talk about that Sunderland team, you talk about, it's up there with my favourite ever strike partnerships. It was incredible. You and Big Niall Quinn there. I mean, me and Joe like to think of ourselves as that big man, little man combo. We were lighting up soccer. Didn't get the chance to actually go out there together in the big game. But when you play, and this is to you as well, Joe.
Tom, sorry, mate. I think we actually mentioned before the game, didn't we? Listen, let's play it like Quinn and Phillips. I'll get off you the big man.
Joe was saying to me, you need to watch the videos of Quinn and Phillips back in their heyday, coming up to me before the game, big man, right, you just got to be Niall quick. I mean, when you played with Niall, right, at that time, because he was fair bit older than you, right? I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He was coming towards the end of his career, yeah.
And so how quickly did you start that relationship between the two of you? I mean, like you say, you're playing for Sunderland. You finished. It was an amazing season. I remember seeing you play, the two of you, and it felt like, for you anyway, Kev, every time the ball came to you anywhere near, you scored all sorts of goals that season. It was remarkable, but just felt like you were you just had no fear about shooting from anywhere. Yeah. But how was that relationship?
I think that's confidence. Joe will tell you, when you're full of confidence, everything you touch, seems to hit the back of the net or a pass comes off. But I think when I went to Sunderland, Quinny was almost retiring. He'd just come back from a cruciate injury. He was struggling to get his fitness. He was struggling for form. And then, I walked through the door and Peter Reid never really had any plans of what, he wanted from the pair of us, whether he was even going to put us together. And I think it was pretty much just a coincidence. I think Reedy was just like, well, let's have a go. Let's have a look at you. We were predominantly 4-4-2 back then, as most teams were. And it just happened. It was one of those partnerships where we never worked on it on the training ground, believe it or not.
Really?
It was just strange. I think, with the stage that Quinny was at, all Reedy used to ever say to us and Niall used to say to me was never ever try to be any further than 10, 15 yards away from me, whether that's in front of me or running in behind me. Because Quinny was, when he was firing, he was unbelievable in the air. But what people don't realise, and Joe will tell you, having played with Crouchy, I had a season where his feet was so quick and nimble, and that's what really amazed me about Niall and Crouchy when I played with him. So he took a lot of defences by surprise, but it was just one of those relationships that worked. I just tried to work off of him and be in and around him, and he had the art of finding me majority of the time. Yeah, I often get the feeling when I speak to Crouchy as well, just because of their size and how good they are in the air, you sort of, it's not disrespectful, but people don't appreciate. Like if Crouchy was 5'11", you'd say he's got a great touch. He'd just be a player with a great touch and great skill. The same with Quinny, but they had that great touch, great feet, and they could bring in people around them, awareness, but also they were 6'5" and 6'7", so anything in the box, it was danger. They'd get you 100 head.
goals throughout their career for a
Yeah.
header. But on the ball, both of them, unbelievable. I played against, I think they knocked us out of the FA Cup, Sunderland that year. And it was like it might have been a quarter final.
Where were you then, Joe?
West Ham. And I remember playing against it, and it was a real tough game. Like, forget just them two up front, but in the midfield, they were tough. You had Don Hutchison. It was just a good side. Mickey Gray left back, wasn't it?
He was a great player, Mickey Gray. Played for it.
It was just a good side.
Did you both play that
for England
team?
Yeah.
We did, yeah. We both got in the England squad together.
Yeah.
When we were still in the Championship, actually. So that was quite an honour. But yeah, no, it was a good side. Reed had built a good side. And like you said, we had Don in there with the experience. Obviously, Quinny up top. We had Steve Boldett come in at that stage as well, who was magnificent for us, big Baldy, great in the dressing room. Like you say, Michael Gray overlapping on the left. He was more of a left winger than a left back. He was a wing back then. So, we had some good players, and it was just a season where it just happened.
I mean, you came up that was a season you finished seventh. Is that the season you came up from the Championship?
Yeah.
So when you look at like teams now, I mean, it's a big thing, I suppose, when I look at, say, Sheffield United this season, where they seem to be struggling a bit. But you look at, say, Leeds and those teams when they first come up, even Fulham at the moment seem like they've got a bit about them. Do you know what I mean? Did you have no fear? How does that work as a team's coming up from the Championship? You're incredible there, and you're like, right, we're going to hit this running. We've got this style, and we're going to take people by surprise.
I think, and that's, you've hit the nail on the head there on the last bit. We took a lot of people by surprise. I think a lot of teams, the bigger teams especially, underestimated us. I think we had such a good team spirit. You can't have all that without having some quality as well, as Joe will tell you. And, we really built a squad that we had a good team spirit, brilliant off the pitch in those days. It was fantastic, especially under Reedy. But we took it onto the pitch and, we performed, and it was, I think, taking the element of surprise. Of course, me and Niall, predominantly a lot of the Premier League players wouldn't have heard of me. Of course, they knew Niall, and they weren't used to coming up against big fella, little fella combination. It wasn't really known then. Of course, two strikers, but having the 6'7" and then the 5'7", it was just unheard of. So we took them by surprise, and I think when you look at, Sheffield United again last season with their energy, the system they played, they're right. Centre half in Chris Basham, all of a sudden you'll see him on the edge of the box taking a shot. It took a lot of teams by surprise. I am not surprised that they're not doing as well this season, because I think a lot of teams have found them out, and they've worked out a way to play against them. I think the Leeds factor again is taking a lot of people by surprise with their energy, their work rate, but also coupled with they've got some quality, and it helps with Patrick Bamford again, who's stepped up. A lot of question marks hanging over his head. Could he step up to the Premier League? But he certainly proved this season that he can do that. So I think it's an element of surprise when new teams come into the Premier League.
I mean, for you, you're the perfect person to ask on that with Patrick Bamford, because I saw him against West Ham. I thought he was brilliant. I thought, he doesn't stop running. What is that jump up? And Joe, can you as well, when you watch that jump up, do you think you can see players, say, in the Championship now, Joe, and you go, he's going to make it in the Premier League? I mean, I remember hearing about and watching you, Kevin, in the Championship, and sort of you were an already England player, so it wasn't like the biggest surprise when you came into the Premier League and you were incredible. But what is that jump up like? What is that? Is it as big as?
Do you know what? That's a real tough one, because it's hard to know. Some players. There's some players who are seasoned Championship goal scorers, and they get 2 or 3 opportunities. I'm thinking someone like a Ross McCormack, someone like he's always scored goals at every level. When he's had the chance at the Premier League, he's never done it. And you just don't know. With Bamford, you wouldn't say he was prolific throughout his career, but he's stepped up now. He's in the right team with the right players around him. Goal scorers need the team around them. If you've got someone who can score goals like a Bamford, he can finish because he's at Chelsea as a youngster. So I know his pedigree. They really fancied him, Patrick Bamford. He's an interesting way around it, because he comes from a very wealthy to-do family. The Bamfords.
Oh, really?
You not know this, big man?
No. Yeah,
JCB.
You
know the JCB?
Yeah.
No, the thing.
JCB.
The B on JCB is the Bamford's name. They're like.
Oh, really?
He's built a golf course. The main man. And if you ever get a chance to play it, if you're a golfer, it's incredible.
Is it?
And it's literally like 20 minutes from where I'm from in the Midlands. If you ever get a chance to go and play it, Go and play it. It's amazing.
Oh,
Absolutely
really?
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When he come through at Chelsea, it was very different to the other young lads. Most of the young lads coming through were from inner London, and he come from well-to-do stock, but he had that grit about him, you know. So when he sort of went down the leagues and he wasn't performing, I think people sort of not written him off because of where he come from. Maybe he wouldn't come back. But when I watched him train in the academy and things like that, and saw the quality he had, I knew he'd get there. I knew he was a goal scorer and a finisher. And what he's had at Leeds is he found a place for himself where he gets on the shoulder of things. And if you put him in front of goal, and I always find it with the top goal scorers like Kev, whatever league they're in, if you put him in front of a goal 1-on-1, they're going to bang it in. And Bamford's of that ilk. Like, I think he's going to be a top player. So getting back to the question, how do you know which ones? The ones with real quality will do it anywhere. So your Bamfords and people like that. But it is tough to know because some lads get by scoring goals in the championships on pace and power. They miss a lot of chances. But the technicians, the ones who've got all types of finishes, will make the grade, like Bamford, like Kev. I see another stat, Kev. Not only did you get 94 goals in a Premier League, he was also voted the top championship player. I mean, that just shows you how long his career was, Kev, because he come in late. And when did you retire? 38? And you're still scoring goals?
No, I was just shy of 41.
41? I didn't even know.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. When I was at Leicester when we got promoted. Yeah.
I'm 39 now, and I played in the five-a-side on Friday night, and I couldn't walk until Tuesday. That just shows you the quality to affect the game.
Just on the Bamford thing, I think also it helps when you get a manager that believes in you. Bielsa, he come under a lot of criticism last year, and he's a very stubborn man. It's his way, and he sticks by it. And he stuck with Bamford when a lot of people, and even myself at times, were saying it might be time for him to come out the side, but he didn't. He stuck with him, and that as yourself, Joe. When you've got a manager backing you, you want to prove the doubters wrong, and you want to show your manager why he's sticking by you. And what I like about Bamford now is when I saw that hat trick he scored at Villa Park earlier on in the season, that for me really said to me, he's a top finisher. Them three finishes were class. Just get that half a yard, the calmness of the finishing. But, you're right, you say that jump is Championship, you generally get 2-3 chances in a match. Premier League, you might only get that one opportunity, and then it's down to the player, the individual. And Bamford's certainly shown this season that he can do that. I've been very, very impressed with him.
Because for me as well, him and the player I really wanted West Ham to sign at the I wanted Ollie Watkins. I think he's a top little player.
Yeah.
I remember again watching him for Brentford. I really thought, watching him, I thought this guy's just made for the Premier League. When you look now, and you're just talking there about two young lads who are coming through who both show that prowess. Who would you say? How far are they off the likes of Kane or sort of Vardy? I mean, you played with Jamie and also Kev because, like you said when we started, playing for Sunderland, it isn't the most fashionable club. How much do you think it has to do with like Bamford there or Watkins at Villa? Do you think if you're playing for a big club, it's easier to get into that like England team, so to speak, or you'll get more recognition if you're playing for a bigger club?
Yeah, I think certainly. Back when I was playing, you had more of an opportunity. It was a huge surprise to me when I did get into the England squad, just because of where I was playing. But Kevin Keegan wasn't afraid to put us in, and I think certainly nowadays with football, the way it's moved on, Gareth Southgate certainly showed he's not afraid to put players in from the teams that are in the bottom of the half of the Premier League or even near the bottom. If you're playing well, you're scoring goals. If you're creating, you're defending well. You get in the England squad. It's simple as that. Look at Calvin Phillips, another outstanding talent. He's settled into the international scene, no problem whatsoever. So, it's shown that Gareth's not afraid to do it. So, but when you think about Leeds, are a huge, huge team, aren't they? When that place, Joe will tell you, when that place is full, it's one of the best places in the Premier League to play football. So. They're heading in the right direction. I think if Bamford keeps doing what he's doing, who knows? Gareth might, give him an opportunity at some point. But it is, I think more back in my day was more, if you were in the Man Uniteds, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the Chelseas, you had more of an opportunity of getting in the England squad. But nowadays, I don't think it really matters.
Who would you say, for both of you at the moment, who would you say is the best striker in the Premier League now, do you think?
For me, well, listen, you can't look past Harry Kane for me.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I've been watching Calvert-Lewin, and I actually love this kid. What he done to Thiago Silva the other day, like when he won the flick on and then got on his own second ball, that was something else. And I've never seen anyone do that to Thiago Silva. I've watched him 3 or 4 times this year. I know he's added the goals to his game, and I don't know if I'd class him so far as a natural finisher. But, when you speak to players, like if you speak to Rooney about him, he sings his praises. You speak to other players who I take that. For me, that's what it's all about. If I speak to a player that's played with someone and they're singing their praises, then I know they're a player. I've watched him. He's got everything. He can pin the centre halves. He can run the channels. And now he's added goals to his game. I think he could genuinely put a bit of pressure on Harry Kane over the next 18 months to be the England number 9. Because if he keeps going the way he's going, he's an unbelievable talent.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. He's one of these players that's developing into a top player. But for me, Harry Kane, he's added something different to his game this season, hasn't he? He's become almost the amount of goals that he's created with him and Son and Bergwijn and people like that. For me, he's the top Premier League striker at the moment. But I totally agree. Give it another couple of years, Calvert-Lewin could surpass him and find himself as England's number 1, every international trip. So
did you see his chance he missed last night, Kev? Did you not see it? No, Harry Kane.
Oh, Harry, the header. Yeah, I watched the highlights. Yeah, and it's, listen, I would never ever criticise Harry Kane for missing an opportunity, and he knows himself, didn't he? You could tell by his reaction.
So unlike him. So unlike him.
I think it was. Yeah, it was one of those when the Liverpool defender, I think he kind of didn't anticipate the defender missing it where he normally does. Good top strikers, as they do, they anticipate he's going to miss this, be ready. And for once in his career, he didn't anticipate it and he didn't hit the target, which is a huge surprise. And
I've had about 4 messages so far this morning from Tottenham fans crying about that. How's H missed that chance? That's not meant to be.
They're going to slaughter him now. He's rubbish. He's useless now.
Where do you put Jamie Vardy up with them? Because you played with Jamie at the end of your career, right, Kevin? And both of you came a little bit later into the game. But do you rate him up there with the very best?
I do. Yeah, of course, I played when I played with him. This was only you're talking 7-8 years ago. He was very raw, and the way he's developed in the last 7 years is just phenomenal. I have to say, I hold my hands up, and I coached him as well for 18 months. He's mad. He's daft as a brush. Well, he was one of those players when you talk to him, you kind of thought he's looking at you, but it's going in one ear and out the other. But he's developed, and what he says to me is he ain't daft. He was listening, but he just wanted to be one of the lads. And Joe will tell you in the dressing room, you always get those players, but he was actually taking on board what we were trying to tell him. And he's certainly done that under Brendan Rodgers. He's adapted his game. I think he's become a lot more clever in terms of his closing down. He used to chase everything. He was chase pigeons if they were on the pitch, but now he's saving his energy for the right moments. And I think when I analyse his finishing now, and it's something that we try to do at Leicester, sitting down and watch him, watch videos. He got himself in so many great positions with him and the goalkeeper. He was very like his play, 100 mile an hour. We tried to sit him down and talk to him. You need to find that composure now. Can you find the corners? Can you start passing the ball in the back of the net? And I think now when you look at he's scored over 100 Premier League goals, which is phenomenal in a short space of time. His variety of finishes now are excellent. I think he's a slightly different type of player to Harry Kane and Calvert-Lewin. But yeah, he's definitely up there. I'd like to see him, put himself forward for that England squad for the summer, because he'd be, a great option for us. But I don't think he will, to be honest. I
agree. Similar to Kev, Tom. I think where they come into the game a little bit later than usual. I think Vardy. I don't think Jamie's as good technically as Kev, but he's bright line and he can run. So, but I still think he's got years in him. He looks so fresh, doesn't he?
Yeah.
and he looks like his movement, he can run all day. I don't know if he's 33, 34 now.
Yeah,
but he's still one of the quickest players in the league. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the big thing that we worried about, and I think everyone says now, isn't it? If Jamie Vardy gets injured, especially will he get a hamstring injury? And we were very conscious when he has to be managed right. The load that he puts through his legs when he runs, and you're right, Joe, he runs at such a pace. The load that goes through his legs is phenomenal. So he gets managed differently to the other players. So he might get an extra session off, he might get rested, or he might go in the gym when the lads are out training, just so that they keep him fresh for, I think obviously retiring from England as well has helped. Yeah. But he relies so heavily on his pace. And, if he was to lose that, then, it could signal the end. But he's a sensible lad. He looks after himself. But I have to give him huge credit from where he's come to where he is now.
Because you were a coach, weren't you, at Leicester this season? They won the league, but you went for Derby and
a sore subject. Yeah, let's not go there. I started off with Ranieri, and I was just putting cones out and taking the odd session, and I got a call from Paul Clement, who'd just become the Derby manager, and my two lads were in the academy at Derby, and he just rang me up and just said, "Look, I'm looking for a first-team coach. Would you be interested?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What will it entail?" I told him what I was doing at Leicester, and he said, "No, you'll be more involved. You'll be taking more sessions. You'll be involved in selecting teams." And I just thought it's a step up for me in terms of my coaching development. So I went to see Ranieri. He said, "No problem." And then I watched Leicester win every week and go on to win the Premier League. So that was probably one of the worst decisions I made in my coaching career. But for my own development, it was the right move.
Yeah, listen, mate, if you just from working with Jamie for 18 months and that, it's Jamie Vardy doing it himself. But the fact that he bumped into such a cultured finisher of you, like you said, he might not have looked like he was listening, but I'm sure just by the results of how I can see the improvement in him finishing. I'm sure that would have helped him at some point. So I know you weren't there then, but
at the end of the day, I take a bit of credit for it, but it's like you say, ultimately it has to boil down to the player taking the information on board and then implementing it, during the game. And it's yourself, the hardest time to do it is match day when you're under pressure in front of 30, 40,000 people, and he's certainly shown he can do that.
When you look to that side, Kevin, you were there at the start of that season. It was an incredible achievement. I don't think any of us at the time thought that would happen. But did you sort of look? Was there any inclination at all when you looked round and thought they could do this early doors? Or
no, of course there wasn't.
No one saw it.
Definitely not. It was just remarkable, wasn't it? And I think back to the January before that when Nigel Pearson was in charge. Christmas Day, we were 8 points cut adrift at the bottom of the Premier League. And this is pretty much, the similar team that won the Premier League, 18 months later. So, we survived with 2 games left. We went on an incredible run. Nigel lost his job, and then Ranieri come in, and I don't know whether did you play under Ranieri, Joe, at Chelsea?
He signed me at Chelsea.
Yeah, so I was very, very surprised because I was expecting this real tactical coach to come in and these amazing sessions that I'd never seen before, but it wasn't. It was pretty standard. He was all about basically showing the play through the middle of the park. He didn't mind the ball. He wanted the ball to go out wide. He wanted to condense the middle of the park. I don't know what he was like at Chelsea, but he didn't mind the ball going wide and crosses coming into the box because he knew we had Robert Hoof, we had Vasilevsky, and we had Wes Morgan. Yeah, he knew that we'd win the ball, and then it was just about what we could do when we had it. So, it was incredible to watch, the way they went on and won the Premier League. And, I think Kante played a huge role in that as well. He was outstanding that season.
And Mahrez, did you look at Mahrez when he was there, and did you see that, the player he's become now? Did you have, again, any inclination at all that he'd go to those heights?
No, well, we signed on the same day, and when I walked through the door, I'd obviously never heard of Riyad Mahrez. We plucked him from Steve Walsh, who's a great recruitment guy. We plucked him from the 2nd division in France, I think it was. Wow. And this young skinny kid walks in, didn't speak very good English, and you're kind of looking at him thinking, what, is he an academy player or is he going to be a youth player? But as soon as it was the same with Kante. I remember when Kante walked through the building. he was sat on the chair when I came in early one morning. I honestly thought he had a rucksack on his back. I thought he was a school kid. I thought it was half term and, he was here like to train. But all of a sudden he's sitting in the first team dressing room. But when them two boys got on the training ground, they were awesome. The lads were like jaws dropped, and I couldn't foresee them both going on to see the futures they've had now. But you could tell then that they had something about them. And for me, you always have to give credit to the player. And Mahrez, in training, players used to try and snap him because he was this slight figure, but you see that now he rides challenges and he just drifts past people at ease. So yeah, he's a quality player.
What unbelievable two signings they are. Plucked from like the second division in France.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. That.
And then you look at West Brom. You're at West Brom as well, and it's that sad thing. I think it's I'm going to say it now. I think an absolutely ridiculous decision like sacking Slavan. I can't see the merits of sacking someone. Number one, who's brought them up from the Championship. I think playing pretty decent football, and he's got the lads. You see I thought the City game, they're out there, they're sweating blood for him. They want to win for him. When you look at that, and both of you, I think you as well, Kevin, you're doing your coaching, whether you're going to get into management. Do you look at that and think how unfair that is for someone like Slavan?
I do, yeah. But ultimately, we both know that that's football, and that you've watched it. It's the industry we're in. It's results driven, unfortunately. But I think back to Jokanovic when he took Fulham up, and same thing happened to him. I think after 8 games he got sacked in the Premier League season. But yeah, the biggest thing for me is when I watched the Man City game, and I covered the Newcastle game on the Saturday before that, and they were unlucky to lose up there. It was only a great Dwight Gale header that was the difference. But the big thing for me is you could tell the work that they haven't down tools, the players. They were working for Slav, and I live in the area. I cover them with a column I do every week, so I know the players love him. They loved his style. They loved his energy. He was one of the lads. After games, he would go. I know he'd go when he goes and does his interviews. He cadges like fags off of the media guys. He don't even have his own cigarettes. He has to smoke a couple of fags before he talks to the media. He's just one of the guys, but the lads respected him. So, I was disappointed to see him go because I thought, they're not cut adrift. They're playing some good football. The biggest thing for Slaven, of course, was when you come out and criticise the board in terms of not backing him in the summer, then there's only ever going to be one winner. And that is, unfortunately, you're going to lose your job. And it's disappointing because, I enjoyed watching him. I enjoy watching him on the touchline. And I know he did a great job at West Ham.
I loved him at West Ham. I thought he was, again, it's same sort of thing happened there, really. He was, we had that amazing last season at the Boleyn. He was an incredible manager. And I think he wasn't supported in the transfer market when we moved to the new stadium. You played with him, right, Joe?
No, it's just before my time. Harry took me up as a 15-year-old to Anfield. So I was on the coach and my job was to, the only thing I remember about Slaven, he ate a lot of fish and chips because I had to get the fish. After the game, I had to go with the kit man to get the fish and chips. And then he's right, he used to be smoking on the back of the coach on the way. You're watching the Premier League as a youngster and you think to yourself, these guys must be so professional and so important. The game was finished within about 45 minutes. There was fish and chips, cigarettes and beer on the back of the coach. And I was just sitting there thinking, what's going on here? This is unbelievable. They were just like my dad's mates, you know what I mean? And then they were going to play in the Premier League. So yeah, he was brilliant with me as a kid.
You're watching All To Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.
Right. Who's winning the league this season? Maybe the Toffees can continue their great form. Will the Blues benefit from German firepower? Will it be about a Belgian who can put a ball on a sixpence? How are the champions going to cope without him? Whatever happens, going to be exciting.
No one knows football better than a Coral football better.
Now, do you know the nation's biggest football fan? Coral are on the lookout for the most dedicated fan going. Each month, Alan Shearer picks a winner to receive £1,000 to spend on football experiences of their choice. Head to footballfanoftheyear.co.uk to enter yourself or nominate someone.
You're watching All To Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.
if you're taking over a team, right, that is built by Slaven Bilic, do you think that Sam can just go in with these few days he's got and go, right, this is a Big Sam way of doing things?
They just don't score goals. And I'll be interested to see now what he does for the game on Sunday against Villa, which is a huge game. It wouldn't surprise me if he brought Charlie Austin back into the setup. I think that was one of the reasons why they were wanting to get him in the door quick, so that he can get a few days on the training ground to get his. It's obviously very difficult to get philosophy, but this is the way it's going to be moving forward. I think it'll be very, very defensive he'll set the side out not to get beat on Sunday, and then hopefully, pick an offensive players where can just try and nick us a goal. They got Pereira, Diangana, who come from West Ham, Kravinovic, who are technically very good players, but they're not prolific goal scorers. I think he might just revert back to a Charlie Austin who's been there in the Premier League. He has scored goals, and then just try and hit Villa maybe on the counter attack. But they haven't been. You think back to early on in the season against Chelsea. At the Hawthorns, they were brilliant for half of that game. I think what were they 3-0 up, weren't they, at half time? Yeah. And so it is in there. It's just trying to find a way to get it out. And there's no one probably more experienced than Big Sam in organising teams and setting them up not to get beat, and then trying to nick a game 1-0, which they need. I think it's about just winning football matches now. That would have been, the message from the board. We're not bothered about the style of play. It's about just winning football matches, keeping us in the league, and then we'll go from there.
Sam's not silly, big man. He taking that job. Listen, every team that's been in trouble, their board would have mentioned Sam's name when they're talking about managers coming. So him going into West Brom, he'll have money to spend in January. They expect 3 or 4 players to come in. He ain't going to go there and have not already agreed with them some kind of strategy to bring players in. So he's probably looking around at the league thinking, right, Sheffield United are struggling. Fulham are picking up, but you expect them to be down there. There's teams around. He knows he's going to get 3 or 4 players in. Ked's right. He'll go in. It'll make them difficult to beat in the sense that what he does every day is he'll work on the back 4 or the back 5. It can be quite tedious for them lads. Like I remember looking over because he separated the attackers, and we went off and did like little fun things like finishing and things like that, which were great. And then you look over and then he'd have all the centre halves and just heading balls, dealing with crosses, and he'd work with them and he'd get that right, that part of the pitch right, and he'd continue to and then all of a sudden that becomes the base. Not as thought through like patterns of play going forward. This is how we're going to score. It's like, right, we need to get the ball forward and we need to do it in the right times, the right areas. But there's nothing clever like, I'm not saying anything people don't know. Nothing clever like what Pep does. So he gets the back 4, the back 5 sorted, and that's what he'll do. He'll bring players in he feels can come into the midfield and the attack and get goals. And I just think people like Diangana, Pereira, and all that, I think that they'll sink or swim with Sam. It'll be very clear. This is what's expected. A, B, C. When we ain't got the ball, you need to be in these positions. When we have got the ball, go and make something happen. And he'll make his mind up 2-3 weeks whether they're the right people. But 3 or 4 players will come in January at West Brom, and they will have a chance. I mean,
the odds are 3 to 1 on to go down. So it's with Coral that's the bet. So it's a big thing, right? Kev, every week we do our predictions. This is actually really embarrassing reading now, Joe.
Have we struggled again?
I got none out of 3 right. Joe got 1 out of 3 right. And then Wes Brown got 3 out of 3 right. So, let me tell you, I'm in a fantasy league with Wes Brown, and he does like a gloat. So we'll be hearing about that, I'm sure. Kev, I'm going to come to you. Spurs, Leicester.
Yep. I'm going to go Spurs win.
Spurs win. Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, Spurs win.
Right. I'm all I want to do is beat Joe, so I'm not going to follow Joe. I'm going to go a draw. Yeah. Next up, Everton, Arsenal.
Everton win.
Joe?
I'm going to go draw.
I'm going to go Everton.
Okay.
God, that could put me in front there, Kev.
Giving you a chance then.
Southampton, Man City, Kev.
Oh, I tell you, that's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think.
I'm going to go. I'm going to give it. I just think Man City will come. I'm going to go Man City win. I think they'll turn it round. Man City win.
Yeah, Man City win for me, big man. I think they're not far off it. They're not far off it. They'll get back on the horse and they'll start pummeling teams again, I'm sure.
I agree with you. I think they're not far off giving someone a good hiding. I'm not saying it's going to be Southampton, but they're not far away.
I'm going to go Southampton.
Ooh.
I'm going to go the
Playing
Saints.
well.
Yeah, I don't know about City. I think they will. I think they're going to obviously turn a corner. But I've watched them at West Brom. I think they're lacking something. I just don't. I mean, we've talked a lot about goal scorers here, but
Aguero comes back in for me. He comes back in Sunday or Saturday, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Right, Kev, you've been an absolute legend. We'll have to get you back on again because it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it, guys.
No, it's been brilliant, man. Thank you so much for coming on, having a chinwag. What a guy, Kevin Phillips, Joe. Amazing.
One of the most underappreciated strikers. You know, his goal record's unbelievable. English football, right the way through the levels. And he played until, I didn't know he played until he was nearly 41. That is some achievement. When you feel how I feel getting out of bed, you know, as a 39-year-old ex-footballer now, the fact that you could still run around a pitch at this and do bits and score goals is incredible because I feel like a bag of spanners after I play football now.
He looks in phenomenal nick now, I've got to say. When he was on the screen, I was like...
He looks
like an action star. It looks like a movie action star from saying. I was like... I felt bad, I've got to say. I'm not too sure about his decision to leave Leicester that season, bless him. I felt bad for him there.
Listen, we've all got them. We've all got them in our careers where we you know, you look back and that was a tough one to lose at. But I think I'm right in saying, I think the fact he coached Jamie Vardy, for a while, you know, I think that would have helped Jamie as well because he is. I've trained with him a couple times with England, and he is a genuine, natural born finisher of the highest order. Yeah. He was up there with the best of them when it comes to sticking the ball in the back of the net. You know, 1 and 2 in the era he got 1 and 2 throughout his career is sensational. It's not like nowadays where players are gonna, you know, it's a goal a game now for top strikers like your Lewandowskis and your Ronaldos and you know them Kanes. You know, it was a bit different back then. Goals were a bit harder to come by. So he's a proper finisher. Yeah,
another level. What a great guest. Next week, we've got an amazing Christmas special with our very own Santa Claus. It's going to be Mr. Carlton Cole.
Oh, unbelievable. The big man.
You've been watching All To Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.